All right, you might know how to steer clear of online scams, but what about your kids? Children are increasingly becoming the preferred target for cybercriminals. And national consumer correspondent Usha Karashi reports what kids don't know could put their futures, even their finances, at risk.
Go, 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 go.
The kids at this computer summer camp outside Chicago are definitely having fun. But the lessons they're learning are serious.
What should you do if you think your account has been hacked?
They're playing a game that teaches them how to spot online fraud.
What is the best way to protect yourself from scammer emails? I got it.
Kids are basically being born with an iPad or a phone in their hands. And for them to understand how to become part of a connected society.
The University of Chicago's Marshni Chetty designed the CyberNaut app to help them become cyber safe.
So that we're not just throwing them in a pool with sharks. We're trying to get them comfortable with the pool before there are any sharks in the water.
FBI data shows money lost from online crimes against children more than tripled, from about $500,000 in 2022 to $2 million last year.
That's why Chetty thinks cybersecurity education should begin as early as kindergarten. And she says teachers need better training too.
Like they'll say to a kid, well, here's your password, it's got our class number, your personal name, like personally identifiable information, and they'll put in a little card and give it to them to give to their parents. And
so that's their first experience with the password is it's written down,
you write it down.
You can give it to
it has
other
your
people.
Personal information, and then a few years later we're like, don't
ever do that.
Do not do that. It's a very bad idea. So that's why it's important to start these lessons early, because otherwise you get this poor security hygiene and it's really hard to undo.
Lessons like a zero-trust approach online, which includes avoiding malicious links, attachments, and downloads, usually from emails and texts. Also, strong passwords. For parents and school districts, keeping software updated, installing security patches, and using good antivirus protections.
There are circumstances where compromised student accounts have led to significant disruptions and issues in schools.
Kids at school are increasingly vulnerable to another kind of cybercrime, one aimed at taking down their entire school system.
Your children's digital identities were compromised.
Everything on my children, their doctor's information, their bus stop information, if they walk to and from school, what bus stop they go to, their medical records, where we live, where we work, every bit of information about our lives, they have.
Well, joining me now is FBI San Francisco Special Agent in Charge, Robert Tripp. Robert, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk about those back-to-school scams in just a moment, but I want to get back to our elections. The FBI and other national security agencies confirmed that the Trump campaign was the target of hackers from Iran, and in fact, they also attempted to hack both presidential campaigns. Should we be concerned that this election is vulnerable to foreign interference?
Well, I tell you, that's a concern of the FBI, and we're working hard, not just in my office, but across the country to uphold the integrity of the elections, which are less than 70 days away.
Now, what about the concerns of the ballot boxes as election day gets closer and closer? Donald Trump has said that the 2020 election was stolen, even though so far there's no evidence to support that. But it put doubt in so many voters' minds. What can the FBI do this election to prove to voters that their ballot is protected?
Well, I tell you what, we have a very aggressive program to investigate any allegations of election fraud. That's part of our traditional election crimes mission, which has really been unchanged for decades. We do have investigations that look at that across the country, but we're really not seeing really significant endemic use of those techniques to undermine the integrity of the elections. I tell you where we're really concerned is the issue that you talked about at the beginning, is malign foreign influence. We're very concerned about nation states that are either doing these so-called hack and dump operations to expose sensitive information of candidates, or to flood our social media platforms with misinformation to make to influence people to vote in a way that they wouldn't ordinarily vote. So that malign foreign influence, that's a key priority for the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
And has the risk of foreign interference changed since the last election in 2020? Has it gotten worse?
The risk is the same, but the tools that are available to nation states have gotten better and not to our favor. And what I'm referring to here is the use of generative AI. AI has increased both the quality and the quantity, the volume of misinformation that we're seeing on the internet. that directly impacts how voters are getting their news about election candidates.
I want to dig into that a little bit deeper because it's not illegal to put something up on the internet that's not true. But what about using someone's image or identity to spread that misinformation? What can the FBI do about that?
We are indeed looking at that, but this is where the social media platforms themselves have a role in enforcing their terms of their terms of service on their platforms. That kind of activity invariably violates the social media platforms' terms of service, and they are working aggressively to take that down. But what the FBI would do in terms of enforcing a law pertaining to that, that's a much more complicated question.
So when you see that happen, though, is it illegal to use somebody's AI-generated image that looks exactly like the person to have them speaking about something that never happened on the internet? Is that actually breaking the law?
The FBI does not want to get into the point where we're weighing in on the legality or the illegality of the content. What we do is look at who is posting it. Is that a nation state or is that a person in the U.S.? And where appropriate and definitely in keeping with our policy and with the law of letting that be known that it is a violation of the terms of service. But really, we depend on the platforms themselves to enforce their own terms of service and take down content that violates those terms.
Now, I want to get to other kind of frauds and scams that are happening as well across the country. The FBI launched a campaign last week to raise awareness of those scams. Tell us about that campaign and your focus specifically on this back-to-school season.
Well, we call the campaign a Take a Beat campaign, and that's really referring to the idea that people just need to slow down a little bit when they're dealing with an unsolicited contact from somebody they don't know. And we have a theme that we do each week, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending on if you're the student or the parent, it's back to school time in the Bay Area. And we're seeing a real uptick in scams that are trying to take advantage of that. We're seeing scams that touch on services associated with registering your children, of paying taxes associated with schools, with loans and with scholarships, all trying to take advantage of that need to get things in order to get your kids back to school.
Yeah, it's really tricky because so much of their schoolwork nowadays is done on some sort of electronic device, be it an iPad or a computer. What can parents do to help protect their kids and themselves from these hackers?
Well, the most important thing parents can do is to be aware that these things are out there. And if they get a contact from somebody they don't know, insisting that they pay money and pay money right away, either to register their child or to make up for a so-called tax that wasn't paid, or to make sure that they have a chance at a scholarship, to slow down and to verify that the person they're dealing with is actually who they say they are. And with a little bit of due diligence and a little bit of internet searching, parents have the tools to be able to do that.
All right, just make sure you're looking over their shoulder at every moment. All right, FBI Special Agent in Charge, Robert Tripp, thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks so much for watching. To view more content like this, we've selected some videos that we think you'll enjoy. And don't forget to like or click that button here on the bottom left of your screen to subscribe.